Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Making sure my levels are good. We are clear, we are crisp. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good victory morning for the Texas Longhorns 31 to 10 over the Wyoming Cowboys. Lots to discuss here. I'm going to kind of break this down with you guys here at the chat. Not that we, I it's one of those games yesterday, and I think the game mirrored a lot of the energy around college football in Week 3, especially for the teams that were ranked higher or the teams that had big spreads. Texas was one of them. Bama was one of them. Across the board, right? Florida State, teams of that sort. But Texas does win. I know they don't cover that 30 points or 28 or wherever you came in at. They do win by 3 scores, though. And to be late into the second half at DKR yesterday, tied, and then to pull away and get it done, they do deserve credit there. It's not something we had to necessarily sweat out the last 5, 10, 15 minutes of the game. So we're going to talk some ball. And as I told you guys on our Friday preview when we were discussing with Tran, we're going to analyze within the context of the game and what we saw and what this team is capable of. And knowing our mission was that last bit of prep, that last tune up before we get into Big 12 play, right? Now we are officially moving forward into our last season in the Big 12, where we will start by going to Waco next week and facing the Baylor Bears, who are 1-2 and really struggling from what I've seen through the first 3 games of Dave Aranda. But right now, we're going to talk about our game. So let me talk to the chat. I see y'all tagging in here. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people during the game um, were very frustrated. Right, there were several points in the game. For me, it was the beginning of the game because I think like y'all, I think y'all feel the way I do. Feel like I know my team, and I can tell pretty early on what time they're on from a effort and perspective and how they're flying. I mean, you look at the Bama game, guys are flying around, whistle to whistle, quarter to quarter, right? And not that there was lack of effort per se, but there was not that same intensity yesterday. Yes, they're rotating some guys. Yes, we had some guys out. Yes, we had some guys go down during the game, which we can talk about. But at the end of the day, I mean, they came out very lethargic. And I even tweeted at one point, wake up, right? Like this is, we're still playing ball. We still have an opponent that came out here on some trickery with the defense, right? I mean, even the defense who's been really sound, very lethargic to start. Now they only gave up 10 points. I think they allowed below 300 yards overall. But when you give up a 64-yard touchdown run with my starters on the field, Jalen Ford's out there, my defensive line's out there. When I give up stuff like that, and Bug gets beat to the sideline there on the angle, and they run it in for a touchdown, we're better than that. And you don't want to put that stuff on tape. Especially, it always seems like it's those kind of runs where we kind of give up sometimes. But it's like, kind of, guys, come on, snap out of it. Let's get going. And they did defensively. They gave up yards. But anyway, the trickery with the quarterback situation, Andrew Peasley not going. We talked about Wyoming potentially saving him for conference play, kind of understanding like there's a bigger mission ahead for them and what Bowles trying to do, Coach Bowl. But it's very interesting how it played out right until the first snap of the game. So yes, that definitely can throw a defense off if they had been prepping for Peasley and obviously seeing the way he performed in the first 2 games of the year and not really having a look at 17 when he jumped in there. So I'll give them a pass there, but overall, we definitely want to see more intensity, trying to create turnovers, just trying to be a lot more disruptive, like they've been the first 2 weeks, right? Overall, they were still sound, but they weren't as disruptive like I'd like to see defensively. So let me, yeah, I'm definitely done with LHN. That's 100. Good riddance. I was able to watch the game at my in law's house, but yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people were having issues or having to buy Sling last minute or resort to various apps just to watch the football game, and that's stuff in 2023 with where we are as a program. We shouldn't be having to deal with people jumping through hoops to watch regular season football games. Um, so yeah, I'm with you there. Look, a lot of teams won ugly yesterday. It's the reality of the situation. A lot of teams won ugly yesterday, but surviving advanced. The one team that did not survive the allegations clearly was the other UT, Tennessee. Um, they've now gone 20 consecutive years without winning in the swamp, but that's another discussion for another day. Good morning, Tinton. Good morning. Hopefully all is well. Hookem 3-0. First 3-0 start for Texas since 2012, right? Since 2012. So that's a positive. Getting over that hump, showing signs of progress. 3-0 is 3-0. And being 3-0 before you head into conference play, regardless of, you know, the coaches got plenty to show them. So if guys were feeling themselves last week and weren't hearing the messages of things they could clean up during the Bama game, they gonna hear it now, right? You can't. I don't think people are going to be reading on the team press clippings this week. I know there was a lot of discussion about that, and I want to hit on that real quick. The players only meeting, and guys saying all the right things, right? Look, they will play with people's trust if they have more games like this after saying what they said. I will say that. I'm glad y'all won. You handled your business down the stretch. They're finishing games. We have to give them credit for that. Regardless of opponent, they're finishing games. But we talked about, as fans, trusting this team. Because the biggest fear, and I've said this over and over, Texas' biggest, most important opponent, most challenging opponent will be Texas, will be the person that is in the mirror. That's for everybody on the roster, the coaching staff, everybody. How do we handle success? So, yes, they are well media trained. They're saying all the right things. It's clear they were feeling themselves this week. It's okay. You guys got through it. Lesson learned. Rather learn the lesson in a win than in a loss. But that's where we talked about trust, right? Like, have we grown? Have we matured to the point where we're going to see good football consistently week over week? This is why I've been hard on the quarterback, starting with leadership. Quinn Ewers was a dominant football player against Alabama. I know he had 3 touchdowns yesterday, but I don't think anybody here will say that was a dominant performance by Quinn Ewers. And quite frankly, I saw going back to some of the bad habits that we've seen, and this is why I'm a little frustrated with that. Right? We gotta have from a stamp. You can't be the guy that's showing up. Yes, we want somebody who shows up for the big games. We want to see it. But from a standpoint of allowing this offense to really click into gear the way that they need to run and pass, we didn't even get to see that in the Alabama game. As great as we were in the Alabama game from a physicality and intensity standpoint, being locked in, our short yard, I've been hammering short yardage issues for a while. We have to resort to packages, to Byron guys like Byron Murphy coming in, to Savion Red taking direct snaps. We cannot confidently turn around and hand the football off and get yards. And I know Century Baxter wasn't there. I know Cole Hudson went down. I get all those things. We can't confidently turn around and execute some double teams up front and get yards. And I don't know if it's some of the condensed sets that we run that are a challenge even for the receivers to hold their blocks. I know that was an issue. I have to really go back and look at that. But even if we're in 11 personnel, we want to kind of spread it out and do wide splits and count the box, like we still don't get that push. And, you look at the stuff we were able to get away with in Tuscaloosa, we struggle with quarterback sneak. We can't run a quarterback sneak. Not with Majors and Quinn. They don't know how to do it. I'm telling you, just watch them. They're either going to fumble the snap, they're not going to snap it when they're supposed to. It's a weird thing to be bad at, but they're bad at it. I hope they can fix it. But we're resorting to packages, even against schools like Wyoming, to move the ball in short yardage. I like our screen stuff still. Xavier Worthy woke us up on basically a smoke screen, just one on one, and he's able to get up the sideline and use his special speed and get in the end zone. We're great at that stuff. We're great laterally still. Quinn, when he decides to set his feet, is still money on short to intermediate stuff. I didn't think we really challenged downfield. They were running that flyover 3-3-5 defense though. That gives Sark problems. But I do want to say this: game balls to Jonathan Brooks. Jade Barron was my MVP of the game. Thought he actually came out and played serious the entire time. And I had a game ball for somebody else. Who was my other game ball for? I definitely had a game ball for Jade, uh, Jaden Blue, and I'll give it a game ball to Xavier Worthy as well. Yeah, um, yeah, but they finished strong. Bama's issues were because they were playing with. They decided to use their quarterback as a scapegoat, Jalen Milrow, and then shit got really real when they realized the other two guys uh, give them nothing on offense at all, and at least they can use Jalen's legs and create and get out of stuff and give other teams problems. That was the Tommy Reese and those guys were out thinking themselves, and um, yeah, they struggled yesterday, like big time against South Florida. I'm putting some of this stuff on Quinn too, guys. I mean, Sark for sure, but Sark should be at the point year three of this offense. I'll be real. This is just how my take on this. Sark should be comfortable enough with a second year quarterback and a lot of guys who've been playing in this game, a veteran offensive line, to run a lot of his base stuff and they execute it. Like for example, we had a situation yesterday where a running back deployed out. I think it was Jonathan Brooks. We didn't have a slide protection for DJ, so it looks like DJ just like gets whooped or whatever. But if you look at the communication between Christian Jones, DJ, the back, like who was supposed to maybe he was supposed to stay a little bit longer before DJ got the alert. But like we get a free runner in there, I think he ended up sacking Quinn on that play or whatever. But those are things that we should be buttoned up on, right? I mean, what if Quinn gets injured on that play, right? Or we're screwing around. I mean, there's a I don't I'm not a fan of going against bad teams and giving lesser effort than I normally would because that's how you get hurt too. Like if you practice at a certain intensity, you practice to play Bama at that intensity, then that's how you need to be repping in other games. We're gonna start talking about the Big 12 here coming up too, right? Like if that's Kansas has a very very very, very dynamic offense. Baylor, you're going to have to go on the road and play Baylor, right? OU has looked really good. Granted, they've been playing, JV teams. They look good, right? And so you want to be able to, they're executing. Whatever they're doing, they're executing. So you don't want to, I know we'll turn up for that, and guys all of a sudden will have energy for it. But I'm not a fan of being this inconsistent. I mean, that's another thing where it's like, oh, If we were buttoned up, he would have never got hit. And next thing you know, his shoulder is an issue again. Be mindful of that. Some of it is to protect your own self. Yeah, a lot of guys did on that spill out, but that's something we had happen again last year with the Bama game, and I don't think it was the same type of run where they got outside, but how the run got finished looked very, very similar to those runs we had issues with last year. I think you assume he's back, Paxton, next week. He said, "Do you think Blake Shapen is back for the Texas game?" I think you assume he's back, but at this point, the way teams are, and especially with college football and the lack of transparency, you can show with the injury report, which is funny because that screws up betting as well. Um, if it's going to be Sawyer, then we probably aren't even going to know. If I'm Baylor, I'm playing that game until kickoff, like Wyoming did. Why wouldn't you? But if I'm Texas, I'm prepared for both quarterbacks. Overall, look, I get it, it was not a sexy way for the defense to start the game. And again, I'm not loving the fact that I mean, we really didn't force. We forced what one? We had a what did we force here? I mean, we had a pick six that Bug had, right? But we weren't as disruptive as I wanted to see. And shout out to Bug. I thought Bug was struggling yesterday, but again, rebounding when your back's against the wall, he was able to step and get a pick six. That was freaking dope. And I heard the light show was nasty as well. Short yardage. This is and Sark talks about if you want to be good in situational areas, you have to figure out a way to emphasize that in practice. I've heard him say this before. They have got to get something down with their short yardage stuff, with their base personnel, something. It cannot turn into like you guys remember, um, during the, during Tom Herman era or Charlie Strong era, Tom Herman era, we used to have like 18 wheeler package to move the ball. Then later in the Tom Herman era, it turned into um, Sam Ellinger, Sam Ellinger QB power to move the ball, and all these extra linemen. Last year, we're having to go jumbo all the time or do row cap package. At some point, and this is it's a lot of teams struggle with it. It's one of the hardest things to do in football. It's playing football in a phone booth. I do like some of our boot stuff when we do it, or our flood concepts. Seems like we have more success there if we throw it, but it's discouraging that we can't just turn around and hand the football off and get a good enough push and physicality up front to move the chains or get in the end zone. It's been a concern. It's been something I've talked about with under Sark's watch for a while. So I would like to see that emphasized or figure out something to help us in those moments, situational moments. But bug, yep, good point here. Wyoming definitely older team. A lot of 23, 24-year-old guys. Kicker had three kids. I think his son is looking at going to Wyoming next year, whoever it was. Like, no, that was the Colorado State game. I was messing with y'all, but still, Wyoming um, was an older team, but but you saw when Texas applied a little bit of force and with their depth, they were able to still shut everything down that Wyoming was wanting to do and still blow them out at the end of the day. So if that's a team that's locked in and serious from the beginning, Texas still probably covers this game. Still the difference in talent. I hope we don't have to get to this point, honestly. But to me, nobody's above the team. I'm always say that. And Quinn's my starter for sure. He's a leader, blah, blah, blah. But you also can't be in a position where you're actively holding the team back. I don't see that. I don't think he wasn't that bad. I'm just frustrated that you want to be in the I think Quinn wants to be one of those guys that's considered one of the top quarterbacks in the country. I don't know him, so I'm not. This is me just making shit up and thinking about what the quarterback's goals probably should be, especially playing under Sark and with these weapons, right? Drake May doesn't get to play with a group like this, but I see Drake May consistently delivering week over week for years. Caleb, those guys, Jordan Travis, who they struggled as well. But those are the guys, those are some of the names you're going to hear that are going to be guys that were highly recruited that are now being discussed as first round picks in next year's upcoming draft. And guys that are the guys, right? The signal callers in college football. Add Shador Sanders to that list as well, right? Um, Quinn is not giving me that consistency is my issue. You were a dominant player against Bama, and it looked like you were back to your old ways yesterday. And I know that when we play OU, all of a sudden footwork's going to be buttoned up again, and he's going to be standing tall in the pocket, and he's slinging the ball around. But when we play a team that we're favored, and it's not the sexiest opponent, and the cameras aren't as bright, are we still going to be consistent for our teammates and our better and just putting out our best foot forward? Right? It's not even about the play calls. It's just about just flat out execution. And you can see it with body language as well, in my opinion. But I'm not. I don't think it was that point. I think, like Isaac's saying here, is a lot of it was just lazy. That's what I see. Receivers do need to be better as well. I was frustrated. I think John Tay Cook, who I love, that's my boy. But we get in the game, brother. We about to get a touch. We don't want to drop those. And they are. We want to see some guys come down with some contested balls and make a play for their quarterback. And the drops were an issue in the Bama game too. We didn't talk about it because we won, but we know that those drops were there as well. I, you know, Terry, you're probably right, but the elite guys like Caleb Williams, year two, was the best player in the country. Again, I'm comparing Quinn based upon his talent to the very best. I'm not comparing Quinn to the average college quarterback because he should not be giving me average college quarterback play, which is what he gave me yesterday. He was average. I don't think he was terrible. He was not dominant like he was against Bama, where it was clear that was a one of one prospect. So when somebody shows me that type of ability, are we not supposed to hold these guys accountable to what their God given gifts are and tools and what they've shown? So yeah, I hear you with the second year QB Jekyll Hyde thing. Um, nah, man, Michael Penix is slinging this thing around. I think this is his second year at Washington. Again, CJ Stroud at Ohio State last year was in year two. Bryce Young by year two was a Heisman guy, right? Top tier 5-star guys that were just they were money by then. JJ McCarthy at Michigan is in his second year, third year in college, but his second year as a starter. He's giving them good quarterback play every single week. There's a certain floor that he's met now, and I need Quinn to at least raise his floor of play for every single week, in my opinion. But it's not all on him. The whole offense was sleepwalking. That's the other thing too. Oklahoma A&M. Um, a lot of these Big 12 teams a lot of these Big 12 teams, it's just like they're food. Let's call a spade a spade. A lot of these Big 12 teams look like food right now, and that's why I'm like Texas is about you. It's about us handling our stuff because I mean, look, in the same breath, I know we're going to get Baylor's best shot. Baylor, as bad as Baylor's looked all year, we're going to come out and they're going to have the best week of practice. They're going to have stuff ready to go for us that they haven't shown yet. All every single thing. But you got to expect that all non-conference games that we got left. That should be the expectation if you're Texas. And even with that being said, you can't hide all of what you are. Is you can get up for somebody, but you can't hide your flaws and your mistakes, and ultimately if you're a good team or not. I don't think you can hide that. And I think a lot of us that watch all of college football, that follow these teams, you can't hide what Iowa State is showing, especially with how putrid their offense is. You can't hide the fact that Baylor is really struggling to stretch the field. You can't hide that. Or some of these teams that have terrible defenses. Texas can get out their own way. They straight, regardless. Yeah, I mean, right now, OU's humming for who they're playing. For who they're playing, they're humming. I think Texas Tech will get their stuff together and be a completely different team by the time we play them, especially since it's the last game in conference. What's good, Dustin? How you doing, brother? I'm gonna go till noon, so probably go do another 30 minutes. Um, Agree, Danny. No, we just talking ball here, but I completely agree. I'm very we 3-0. Like I said, first time. So I started with a lot of good off break. 3-0 for the first time since 2012. So that's a good thing. No, he didn't catch a pass. I'll bring up the stats if anybody wants to see them. Um, but no, he didn't catch a pass. Yeah, we can go to offense. I mean, the stats were look, Jay Brooks, when we just said screw it, we're gonna put our head down and run the football. Jay Brooks thought Jay Brooks's contact balance really good, and did a good job of saying I'm gonna be the lead guy with Cedric Baxter out and giving him that extra week. But you can see here Jatavian Sanders, 3 targets, no catches. And then Jonte dropped the one that he got. So that's the week coming off of being the Mackey award-winning tight end and having this amazing week against Bama. So a little bit of fall off there, but we got obviously we need to get JT back active in our offense. Gunnar Helm almost had a touchdown. To be fair to him, but he got tackled like right before the goal line. Red River, Quinn will play up to it. Oh, I have no doubt. I have no doubt. But is it too much to ask to be good every single week? Look, clock rules, and refs too, right? That's another thing where you look at um, some of the things in this game. I'm not really going to bag too much on the officials because the game ultimately wasn't close, but there's some things that happen where it's fishy, right? But I'm not even going to go there. But what I will say, especially in terms of the clock rules, um, we gotta. I mean, if we're off to better starts, the clock isn't as much as play, which is kind of where we were the last couple of years, right? Where we're jumping on people, and look at K State last year. We're coming out in half, up 31-10 or up two scores. It's really putting the onus on the opponent. When you come out sluggish, and you're now putting yourself in a position where you're tied with a team you shouldn't be tied with. Hell yeah, I'm going to use advantage of the clock if I'm Wyoming and try to slow the game down and start running clock to make Texas nervous as the huge favorite. The games that are still blowouts are where teams are still jumping on people, and I'm making Wyoming. I'm dictating that they have to pass, and Texas isn't getting off to the starts they've been getting off to the last few years under Sark. That's something I want to kind of get back to and see when Big 12 play starts. If we can have some of those fast starts that we've had under Sark to dictate that people got to throw the ball. That'll help us get a little bit more disruptive on defense too. But if your game's 10-10 in the third quarter, I mean, if it's me and you on the other sideline coaching Wyoming, we doing the exact same thing, brother. Baron Sorrell, that was one of the highlights of the game too. That sack that he had, that was. We had some moments in there that were exciting. Uh, Dylan Gabriel's playing well, okay. Dylan Gabriel, Don C. Look, we finally gonna. I hope we get to see him. I hope he makes it to the Texas game this year. Um, it shouldn't be too much of an issue for y'all. I think y'all have Cincinnati and Iowa State. The Iowa State game will be interesting because they still bring the defense on that end. But if y'all score 17 points, you're going to be straight against Iowa State because they can't. That's the worst. They might have the worst offense in the Big 12. So DG, we finally going to get to see DG match up against Texas. But I'm telling you right now, that noodle arm, when he throws the ball to the field side, we get into pick six. I'm putting that on record right now. When I see him trying to stretch the field against real speed on defense, I, hopefully he throws with fantastic anticipation against us, or else we picking some of those. Is it a desire to stomp the opponent just not there these days? They're winning. They're winning, right? Um, so I mean, I'll I'll I'll, I'll at least I'll at least give them credit for that. Compare Quinn to last week's Quinn. I mean, you know what the answer to this is. Um, he looked like somebody that was going through walkthroughs. Just everything about the vibe. So had three TDs. Didn't kill us. He wasn't like he didn't miss every single throw, and some of it is on the team. But he wasn't trying to come out there and be dominant. I'll put it that way. He wasn't trying to come out there and put 50 on Wyoming. That wasn't his vibe. If it happened, it happened. If it didn't, it didn't. That was the takeaway I got. But it's more than that. I mean, offensive line communication. We're still having some challenges there, and I want to talk to Tope about that this week because those things really have to be buttoned up. going to conference play, or again, that's where you start to have injuries. And now that Cole Hudson, I don't know, have any of the paid sites given an update on Cole Hudson this morning on his status? I'm sure Texas, if I'm Texas, I'll probably mum on that. But um, his injury looked bad or concerning, I should say. Brooks does get better as the game goes on. I agree with that. And that's a lot of running backs. A lot of people, I'm sure anybody that's played running back at any level will share that here in the comments and agree with Isaac here. As you get feel, you start to have some of those blows. Um, yeah, you get a better feel for the game. Oh five after, yeah, we had some games like this in oh 05. But we also had games where we stepped on people's necks too, which we haven't seen yet, which I think is coming. But I agree. Yeah, we as long as you win. But that '05 team, I will say this: I trusted them more and I gave them benefit of the doubt more because they were a 12-1 team in 2004. They had only lost one game the year before. They knew how to win on a consistent basis. So that trust was built in there. It was more about, making sure they went undefeated. So the expectation now, yeah, we want to try to win every game now, but this is a team that we're not sure until they prove it. We're not sure they know how to win double digit games. That 05 team that had a lot of people on '04, they were 11-1 and won the Rose Bowl against Michigan. They were 12-1 team. So they had, I should say, a little bit more benefit of the doubt with that group. Yeah, Sanders. And you know what? It just again speaks to the consistency of things, right? I know JT's going to be there against OU. I know some of the other challenging games, whether it's Tech or whoever else, reveals themselves to be BYU potentially. That's a game that a lot of people aren't talking about. BYU beat Arkansas yesterday. That's the next team we got to start. BYU now is under surveillance, in my opinion. But those are games where we're going to need our boys to step up. And also for me, I'm just a JT fan. I want to see my guy eat. I want to see my guy unleashed. I was happy as shit when he got unleashed last week. I'm a JT fan. I want to see JT get the football. I feel like we make a solid effort to get Xavier Worthy the football every week, and then it's kind of inconsistent with everybody else in their touches, including Jatavian Sanders. Our running backs are always going to get touches. We're playing a lot of two back this year, if you haven't noticed, and even with the injuries, Keelan Robinson still being in there, Jaden Blue that's still being there. They're gonna get a lot of touches running past, but on obvious downs when we're in 11 personnel, I mean, it really does feel like we're like kind of not at times force feeding the ball to X, but we got weapons all over, and I want to see some of these brothers eat, man. And I feel like sometimes we're a little inconsistent with their targets. Um, I mean, if I go back here. AD had 4 targets, X had 6, and then nobody else had more than 3. Now we only threw the ball 21 times because we didn't have the ball that much. So stats are going to look uglier, anyway with that. Flowers for Murphy. Shout out to Big Murph getting a tutty. Getting a tutty. He deserved it. Highest graded. I got to look at the PFF stuff, but coming into the game yesterday, he was the highest graded defensive lineman in the Big 12. Him and T Sweat. So you know how they've been holding it down. I thought T Sweat actually looked good yesterday too. When they started waking up, I like the way T Sweat. finish the game. Nair seemed to be upset too. I mean, I saw some of the social media posts. Nair looked to be upset. I don't know how we, especially down the end. I would have liked to see him get reps against his former team. But hopefully they can quell that in the locker room and you know get the young man. Hey, we need you, big fella. I know it's been you were supposed to be our number two last year, and injury occurred, and Texas had to do what they had to do and get guys in here. I get it, but I definitely feel for Isaiah Nair. I do, and I understand why he's upset, and hopefully they can get that situated to where it doesn't become a distraction or anything, and um, you know, ready. My whole thing, y'all know, y'all have heard me talk about this with whether it's the Horns or the Cowboys. If you're a guy that's not a regular contributor, are you going to be ready when called upon? Because at some point we're going to need to call upon you this season. So let's stay ready, so we don't have to get ready. He does always get that random running tutty. Quinn does in these type of games, bro. Sark got on. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Sark got on him during the game where he had lazy feet. If I'm not, I read that somewhere. I don't know if I saw it from my TV view, but Sark got on the game, got on him during the game. I'm fine with them playing. So Taffy and Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush is to me. He's played actually. He's given me good rotational snaps so far this year at the edge. When Jeb Bush is at the edge and he's in there in that rotation with Ethan and Jamon Tapp and Justice Finkley and we're playing a lot of different guys. I mean, Jeb Bush had some really good snaps against Bama where he generated a holding call, had a couple tackles, and is a very veteran player that is going to do his assignment. Um, I understand if some of those guys are in there too much, or if they're in there with a group of combinations. So I'll give you an example. In my opinion, I don't want to see Michael Taffy playing with Keaton Crawford. I don't think that's a good group. Like I want to see Michael Taffy play with Bug or Jalen Catalon or at minimum Derek Williams, somebody like that. I don't want to see Keaton. And if Keaton's in there, same thing. Like I want to see Keaton paired with somebody that can really help him decide on where to go and kind of because Keaton's going to play at 1,000%, but he doesn't always know what he's doing. So and I know Taffy is more of a brains type, but for whatever reason, I don't like that combination together. That's just me. So I would like to just be a fly on the wall in coach's room on how some of these combinations are put together because some combinations work really well. This is also another thing, combinations on the defensive line. So if Vernon Broughton is in there with Jure Bledsoe or Alfred Collins, like last year, Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins was a bad combo. T Sweat and Murphy were an elite combo for us. Like they know this data of which combinations work well together. Like this player is going to perform a lot better if he's subbed in with this player next to him versus performance will drop if these two players are in there together. But I'm not going to harp on that too much because they got it. These are the type of games you want to kind of play around with combinations so that you know exactly what you want to go to when shit gets real in conference play. So it's a double-edged sword. Like they kind of have to experiment with it. But me personally, I'm not a fan of the Taffy Keaton Crawford combo when they have them in there together. That's just me. No disrespect. Yeah, it's tough. When your team is not performing up to your expectations and playing as well as you think they can, it's going to be frustrating. Period. Yeah, BYU's good. Their resume speaks for itself. So we're going to have to deal with that. Um, First off, yes, he did just tweet cool, but he did like some tweets where I'm not going to get into that, but he liked some tweets as well that were talking about him supposed to be getting in. So it was more than just Isaiah tweeting cool. I'm just reporting the news. I'm not. I like I said, if I was Isaiah there, I would be upset if I was him. I think he has every right to be upset. I think a lot of what Sark holds back is some of the plays that are built off of other plays that we run consistently, and some of the things he'll do in certain formations that are maybe a little unconventional, and when he decides to run bunch concepts with the multiple tight ends and things of that sort. I think and also when he mixes and matches tempo. I think that's when Sark is like really in his bag of being fully creative. But again, if we're running inside zone, we want to see them execute inside zone. If we're running, a flood concept, we want to make sure that people or levels concept, whatever. We want to make sure that guys, when they're running their routes, are at the proper depth. That's execution. That's not the play. If it's against zone, you're supposed to sit down versus against man, you're supposed to carry and like basic shit like that. Like for people watching the Colorado State game, that game was super intense. But Colorado State was running the same play over and over again, which was what? It was basically mesh concept. Shallow crossers going straight across, and Colorado couldn't defend it. So it wasn't about like, oh, they're running this like elaborative creative play that nobody could stop. I mean, they're running basic mesh over and over and over again. So, how that relates to Texas and whatnot, I would like to see them be able just some of the more basic concepts that they do run, or when they run that their classic quarters beater where they have the crosser and the post kind of married to each other, and the quarterback basically gets to decide because the safety's in a bind. And then it just becomes executing the throw and making sure again the receivers are at proper depth, right? So um, those are the type of things I just want to make sure we're always buttoned up on, regardless of opponent. Slightly concerned to this one. I'm more concerned about our short yardage because I think we are a physical team, but for a physical team, the fact that we still have to resort to some of the things we need to resort to get first downs is frustrating. Trace, I'm Tracy. I'm glad you're here. I'm really easing on the officials today, brother. In all seriousness, I'm not going after the officials today, brother. Tracy said I'm here so I don't get fined. Uh, just a good comment here. 335 beaters aren't as plentiful as other tricks in the bag, and the Big 12 has numerous teams that do it, which is true. Um, Iowa State are the kings of it. We'll probably see some 335 next week from Baylor. Baylor will mix it in. TCU hasn't been known to mix it in the past. I don't know how they'll handle it this year, but there are multiple teams that will run 335 against us. OU, but Iowa State's the main main culprit here. Uh, we used it some in second half out of necessity, but he didn't want to do it. Uh, no, absolutely true. But what he used to do at Alabama when Arkansas and them were running 3-3-5s with Barry Odom was they would just run through that shit. And I know it's hard because the run fits against a 3-3-5 are awkward for offensive linemen. That's what Michigan thought they could do to TCU last year. If y'all remember the playoff game, Michigan thought, oh, 3-3-5, we're just going to run the rock. We have the Outland, we have all these award-winning offensive linemen. We're going to go straight through it. But it does throw off your keys to this point. Um, but Sark would do that anyway at Alabama and just run through it and then complete some intermediate passes from Mac Jones, and they would get up out of there. We did it last year to some degree against Iowa State in that game where we laid a lot of throws against it, but it's there aren't as many beaters like there is with the way Sark knows how to beat up quarters coverage. Yeah, you guys have a blessed day. It's about time for NFL kickoff. So I'm a I'm gonna look at a couple more comments here before kick. I want to make sure that my fantasy teams or my lineups are set, which I think I did before I came on here, like a responsible fantasy football owner. Um, Making sure there's no last minute scratches. Looks like I'm pretty good across the board. I'm actually going to the Cowboys game today, so start making the Cowboys videos again. But I'm going to Cowboys Jets today with my wife, so that'll be fun. So if you're at the Cowboys game today, say what's up. Oh yeah, hit that like button. Hit that like button. Appreciate y'all. We still got to win. We're 3-0, guys. 3-0 for the first time since 2012. We are now in Big 12 season. It's now full on embrace the hate season for this Texas team. Corey, thank you. Thank you. Um, that means a lot, man, because that's exactly what I want to show and that's why I do this. And yeah, I appreciate the fact that even though you guys may not always agree with my opinion, it's coming from a place of love for the team, um, and wanting the team to achieve as much as they possibly can and play up to their abilities. So I appreciate that. But you guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. Still showing. Uh, you guys can see me. Oh no, that's earlier in the thing. Never mind. I'm tripping. Yeah, let's get after it. Let's get after it in the conference play now. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. So, guys, hit that like button. I appreciate the chat. Gonna watch some NFL football today. If you see me at the Cowboys game, say what's up. We go to Waco next Saturday, starting the Embrace the Hate tour in the Big 12. We will have some content this week. I'm gonna try to get back with the unfiltered guys this week. We're gonna have Karen on this week to recap non-con and kind of help me with a Big 12 preview. Cowboys content's coming, and then our normal show with Tran this week as well. So stay tuned for those videos. I appreciate it. Richard, thank you. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Good vibes. Have a great day. Sam Shepard, thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are dope. You guys are dope. Yeah, we've been here rocking it. I posted a video from 5 years ago just to show you guys how long it's been, man. We've been here for a minute, 10 toes down. Um, but folks like you guys keep this channel plugging away, so I appreciate it. Anyway, y'all, horns always up. Like, share with a friend, subscribe. Good Longhorn content, more coming your way. Love y'all. Peace.